Walt Disney is saying, if you can dream it, you can do it. It was one of the most difficult transitions I've ever had to make because in those years with Cirque, and you've been on tour, and I think some of the listeners will have been on tour and will understand when I say you choose that life, you choose it. So you choose consciously to give up on something else. It's almost like I needed that permission to be able to learn something else. The way I have shared it now may sound beautiful and inspiring, but believe me, it was hard. I was crawling over the ground in grief. I think I was mourning the departure of my life in the theater. That was not the plan.
Welcome to Recast and Rise, the podcast for performers and creatives ready to explore what's next. You'll hear inspiring stories of artists who reinvented themselves and found new careers after the stage. Let's recast and rise. Hello, Marjon. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Eve. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been so long.
I know. I'm trying to actually do the math.
Let's do the math.
2007 is when I met you.
Yeah. Over 20 years ago, we were together at Delirium with Cirque du Soleil.
You were this fantastic dancer, and I had to steal the hearts of the company by teaching a dance class to see if you guys wanted me as an artistic director.
Such great memories. Here we are. I'm so excited. And
that's 20 years, girl. That's almost 20 years. Okay, sorry, cut that part.
Oh, no. We're definitely keeping this.
Okay.
So now, of course, this conversation is about career change, career transition for artists. And you've gone through two major career transitions, and you'll tell us all about that. But first, can you tell us what you were doing as a performer?
I was dancing.
Yes.
So I was dancing. My performance arts really consisted out of dance. And I was a contemporary jazz dancer. And that's what I was doing. And I was performing in New York mostly because after my academy years in the Netherlands, I'm from the Netherlands, I moved to New York to learn another technique that was going to be injury preventive, which I found interesting because my body wasn't actually created to be a dancer. So I had a lot of injuries all the time. And this technique was teaching me how to work with my body and have a longevity in my career, which is super interesting because I thought already then, if I stop my career, I better learn this technique to teach to others so that they can have a longer career. So that's what I was doing. And I was doing it in New York. So I was dancing, and then very quickly it appeared that I was really enjoying choreographing. And so I combined my own dancing with choreographing work. And then I created a dance company called Memento Dance Company in 1996. Woo! And that was crazy because that was in New York, and I was this young Dutch girl, and I won all these awards with my first evening length production. And that's from there my career just went into the lift as a choreographer. Yeah. That was
wonderful.
Awesome.
Tell us about that. What kind of preventative work for injuries? What was that?
We have
a lot of people could use that. As performers, we get injured. So expand on that a bit.
I really would be happy to expand on this. And if our Cirque du Soleil friends are listening, they might recognize some of this because there is a woman named Lynn Simonson. And she created a technique that was later then called the Simonson Jazz Technique. And she actually created it in Amsterdam, which I think is really cool. And she was trained a ballerina, but she realized soon that her body and many of the other ballerinas' bodies at that time didn't have a very long career. And she couldn't stand that. She was like, why? Why should our career stop at 28 or at 32? And if what we do is what we love and that's our passion. And so she's sitting in, I believe, Amsterdam, and all of a sudden she hears this Miles Davis or another beautiful jazz piece of music. And she decided to start to create work to that jazz music, like real authentic jazz music. But then she also really studied how to work the body. What are the limitations of each unique body? Because everybody is different. And how can we learn really by mindfulness, but really by studying our own body and listening to what it needs? How can we then perform at a very high level without hurting ourselves? We just need to understand our instrument better. I'm saying it really simply. Forgive me, Lynn Simonson, but she created this incredible technique where for the first 1.5 hours of a class, she would have her drum and all we did was listen to her, to what she was saying with her cues for your body. Ev, Marjon, Katiti, Diane, everybody had different corrections, things to implement, talking of implementation, and then to integrate. And then you could feel your body really adapting differently and changing and getting very strong. And that I've seen and I've learned it myself. I could have a career where I was not supposed to have a career because of that technique as a dancer. Yeah. So really incredible work.
That's so inspiring. Absolutely love that. And would you say that moment also defined, of course, Memento, but then also Memento Body Works, because that's what you're doing now. So tell us about that transition.
Yeah. I shall, but I forgot the Cirque du Soleil part there with Lynn Simonson, because she trained many of the people that later became artistic director for Cirque du Soleil. Like Chantal Tremblay, Alison Crawford, lots of people, you may know these names, are all Simonson babies. Ria Martins, they all came from Lynn and I came from Ria. But it's actually really behind the scenes. And I think it's great that these people entered into Cirque du Soleil to take care of the artists there. So back to your question after that. Would you mind repeating that question?
Yes. So the technique, and probably it sounds like also inspired you to transition in to building Memento Body Works. Yes? Would you tell us about that transition there?
Almost.
Great. Tell us. Yes.
Yeah, because it's such a great story, I find myself. So it's actually memento. It's not momento. It's memento. It's a memory. Yeah. Memento, like a memory. And when in 96, I did my first evening length performance, I dedicated it to the work of my aunt, who was a rescuer in the Second World War. She was in the resistance. And so I wanted to do this performance that was actually honoring all the people that helped people in the war. And so I invited 12 different choreographers and we all dedicated a piece to either the Holocaust or to the resistance movement or all that. And that was Memento. And that was to remember something very profound and to really stay awake to that today. And when I worked with Lynn Simonson to make a bridge there, she, with her cues, was bringing something into my being that I would never forget. And I thought, wow, that's a memento right there as well. And so dancing, then soon I started learning also the Pilates method, because that was also supporting my instrument in staying healthy and strong as a performer. So in the years in New York, I became a certified Pilates instructor. And then I started doing body work as well, because that's just nice, right? You're a dancer. To receive a massage or any type of body work is very healing and restorative. So all these three things together became something to remember in your body and in your mind. And I figured, well, that's a nice Memento Body Works title. My company was called Memento Dance Company, out of that first performance called Memento, and that won all these awards. So that became Memento Dance Company. And it was a very logical move for me to go to find a house for my company, which you visited back in 2007, and to have my company have a studio to work from, but also to be able to train themselves and then to restore themselves in a massage. So it became Memento Body Works, house for Memento Dance Company. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's like this whole holistic approach on all those different aspects. That's so great.
Yeah, thank you. Now that I hear myself say it back to you, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool, actually.
It's pretty cool. And also it needs, for lack of a better word, but it takes courage to also explore all of those things, thinking, okay, will this work? Or even the Pilates, like it's something you try and you're like, I don't know. Well, I love it. Like, how did you know? Did you try Pilates thinking you would love it? Or you were like, I don't know.
No, I hated it. Like with a passion. Because here I came, and many of us dancers will maybe recognize this. So I did the whole university study academy in the Netherlands. Then I went to New York and I did this whole teacher training with Lynn Simonson, and I was studying and I really thought I knew my stuff. I thought that. So there I went to the Pilates session because my teachers told me in New York, you have to do Pilates because this is not enough for you to uphold your body doing what you do. as a performer. And so I went and I believed them because I really believed them. And because I really believed them, I did it. But I went there and I had a private session and I thought, Ev, that I could do nothing. I was so frustrated because my whole controlling mind and perfectionism mind was like, what do you mean I cannot do this? Because it's so subtle. And you've done Pilates, I think, right?
Oh, yes.
And so it just was very frustrating for me for about a year. And I just didn't get it, but I kept going because everybody told me, the people that I looked up to said, you're going to do this and it's going to be good for you. And then after a year, all of a sudden, the puzzle, all the pieces fell into place. And I started to then become very curious about it because I felt the change in my body. And I was like, oh my God, it's a whole different way. It's like, it was like the work really came from the inside out rather than from the outside in. And I am now learning about how everything that Lynn told me actually fell into place and how I could steer it. So yeah, then I loved it. And then I thought, my company has to have this. My dancers have to do this. That was what I believed. So that's why for Memento Bodyworks was a very logical thing to do. Yes, it took courage to set up a big studio like that and to see if that worked and to open it publicly. And at that time, Pilates was not so known yet here, at least not. So yeah, it took courage, but it was great.
And what are the things that you needed to learn beside the actual Pilates, like being certified? Building the company itself, you need business skills or at least networking.
Yeah,
There's this whole...
I needed to learn everything, Ev.
Everything.
I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, I was very inspired by the studio that I studied at in New York City called Dance Space. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but Chantal Tremblay studied there. Like all the people I named earlier, they all studied there. And that was a place that when I first stepped foot into that place, and that was 1992. Okay. I'm sorry. I just think it's really funny. Every time I go back in those years, I'm like, wait, what? Okay. 1992. And I was going to do a summer intensive there. And I walked in, and at that time, everybody was still smoking, and they were still smoking in the hallways of the dance studio. All these dancers lying on their backs, splitting their bodies, stretching with a cigarette in their mouth. It was just, to me, hilarious. But besides, that's an anecdote. That's a little detail. But besides that, what I loved was I felt so welcomed. I felt so just walking into a very beautiful, warm place where there were all these different rooms, all these different studios with all these different classes, and people were watching them lying in the doorway, watching the classes and then rolling in for the next class. And then a next room that I passed was a massage room where somebody just had a massage and smelled all of oil and beautiful. And the other room was this torture room, which was this Pilates room. And it all just happened together. And I thought, but everybody seemed so happy. And then there was a little coffee corner where people were just having coffee and chatting. And what I loved very much, and I later loved it the same with Cirque, I think everyone came from a different country. And that's what I loved. So here we are, and the world came together in this one little hub. And there was a theater, like one of the dance studios could convert into a theater. And I was like, wow, why don't we have this in the Netherlands? That's the inspiration for Memento Bodyworks for me.
You saw the need. You saw the need in your country.
Yeah, I was always running away from my country because I felt like it wasn't here. So I'm going to Paris and I'm going to New York and I'm going everywhere else but my country. And I thought, that's ridiculous. So let's see if we can change a little bit the culture here. And that does move to our next bridge when Cirque then called me after a few years, but I'm sure we'll get there later. But you said earlier in this call, you said something about we sometimes don't realize the impact we make on people. Didn't you say something like that?
Yes.
When I closed Memento Bodyworks, because Cirque du Soleil scooped me up, I thought everybody had forgotten about it after 10 years when I came back. And I just did a careful social media post. I'm going to teach Pilates. Anyone join? And then all these responses. Oh, Marjon from Memento is back. Hey. And I was like, wow, they remembered. It was really cool.
Very nice. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
It was lovely.
So you did a pause for 10 years. We have so much to talk. So you are in New York at Dance Space and you feel very inspired. Why don't we have that in the Netherlands? What now? you went back home? What happened?
I have this memory now with your question. And I went into the office of Dance Space, and there's the big people like Laurie DeVito and Jana Hicks and Lynn Simonson and Charlie Wright, and all these people are there. And some of the interns are there, and I'm like, is there a blueprint of this place? Literally, my dream was to build the exact same place here. I didn't know how I was going to fund that, but that was just, I always thought it starts with a dream. Walt Disney is saying, if you can dream it, you can do it. That's my big motto. I didn't know that then yet, but later I became conscious of that because I was a very big dreamer, always have been since a little girl.
Oh.
And I made it that far, so I figured I might as well start thinking about this and see if there's a blueprint. I don't think I ever got the blueprint, but they did love the idea. So they gave me as much as they could to inspire me. And I was just like, okay, so how many departments are here? What is needed? Because I see everybody do things, but I don't really know what everybody does. So really, Ev, I started it all by myself. I just went, and then I didn't instantly start that studio because when I went back to the Netherlands, it was actually not because I wanted to go back. It's because I didn't get my green cards. So I was very devastated leaving New York City. I thought I was going to live there for the rest of my life. But since I didn't, then I started asking for these blueprints because I was like, if I can't stay here, I'm just going to have to build it for myself. So naive, but that's how I was. And there was a little roundabout. I didn't instantly stay in the Netherlands. I went to Paris and stayed there for about 2.5 years and then danced for a production in Seoul and did all these fun stuff before I actually went back to the Netherlands. Then I restarted my dance company, Memento Dance Company. I gave it a reboost and I started hiring students from the academy and creating this hub where there could be professionals and students working with me and with each other. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to do a really big production, kind of Cirque du Soleil, because I was always very inspired by Cirque du Soleil. And I want to make it really big. And I started looking for money, Ev, for this production. And if I'm bad at one thing, it's grand proposing, grand writing. I can't do that. I'm so bad at it. I just can't do it. So I did not succeed. But then an aunt of mine said, I will loan you the money. And it was such a big amount of money that I looked at my partner and I said, what if it's a flop? What if the production becomes a flop? Then how am I going to pay back that money? And that's when I went, now it's time to open a studio. I'm going to use that money to invest, build my space. And from there, I'll create productions and grow with my company. And that's how that happened. And then all of a sudden, then everything went really fast. And I found a physical body of a building that we had to completely rebuild. And it was an old sound studio for the radio and TV, I believe. And we rebuilt it. And then I remember when we opened and it was a big shebang and everybody was there. And then my first day of work, I was sitting behind my desk all by myself in a 400 square meter space. You saw the space. And I was like, how do I actually get clients? So thankfully I did have, at that time, social media didn't exist yet, I think, or maybe it was small, but there were some articles in the newspaper and slowly people came in. And of course, the students of the academy came in because I was teaching at the academy together with Silke, who was my partner at the time. So we brought in students a lot. And yeah, I went with it and I learned as I went with it, Ev.
Yes.
And I'm still paying off that loan, by the way. But I'm almost done.
But you built an incredible, the physical space, but like the community fun. And you built your dream. And you know what I love about your story is that you didn't know how that would happen. You knew you wanted to build it. And somehow you did not worry about all the steps because you know what also is so true is if you have a goal and you would know all the things that
you don't want to do it.
You would not do it.
Oh
it's better to be a bit like blind, naive, diving into it. Here you are.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, that's true. But listening back to that story, I'm like, Jesus, wow. But yeah, that has gotten me to places indeed. Just believing in it and really wanting it and having the passion. And you're so right, because the not clarity about things is so helpful, because if you would know everything in advance, you just wouldn't do it. That is great. You should put that on a t-shirt, Ev. Or something like that.
Let's do this next project together.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm in.
And did you want it? Any thoughts at some point where you wanted to give up? Because that's a beast to do.
Yeah. When my first electric bill came in, when my first, like everything, and oh my God, once I came in and all the water went through the roof onto my equipment, I was like, Jesus. So you're like constantly troubleshooting. But there was also a sense of there's no turning back now. I started this.
Yes. Yep.
Something very big has to happen for me to end it, and it did. But yes, the answer would be yes to your question.
Yeah.
But never a hair on my head that was going to give up. And in hindsight, I'm very happy I closed it, because when I came back from Cirque, there was pandemic, and I would not have wanted to have that studio then.
Let's talk about that. So you went through with Cirque. How did you run with the circus?
You mean, how did I get there? Oh, wow. Yeah, Martins. So one day I'm in my studio and I'm walking around, and it's like midday and it's lunch break and it's quiet in the studio. So I'm walking around and my phone rings, and it's an actual phone behind the desk, not a cell phone. So I went and I got the phone and it's Ria Martins, who I had not spoken to in 2.5 years. Now, Ria Martins was my dance mentor in the Netherlands, not in New York, but in the Netherlands. She was trained by Simonson, and I adored her always. And I always tried to maintain contact with her, even if it was several years in between. And sometimes we would just call and say hi. And then she called me, and she said that she had been following my work in the recent years, and she was just really proud. And that's why she called, and she just wanted to say hi and ask me how I was doing and all that stuff. And it was really great. And she was now at Cirque, and I said, I know, because I heard it. I'm so proud of you, and blah, blah, blah. And I always said, and this is a little sidestep, I always said to my dancers, if ever Cirque calls me to even do so much as hold a light, I will do it, because I was so inspired by Cirque du Soleil. I had first seen them in New York. I think it was Alegria. I just always loved it. And didn't say that to Ria. I'm just saying that to you now. So anyway, so she goes on and on about her life, and I go on and on about my life, and all is well. And we talked for, I think, 2.5 hours, and then we hung up, and that was it. Nothing about a potential opportunity or whatever. The next day, I get a call from Luc Tremblay, Senior Artistic Director at Cirque du Soleil, who got a call from Ria, he said. And he said, we are doing this show, and it's called Delirium, and it's one of the first arena shows with Cirque. And we are looking at a 3-month period of time where we need an interim artistic coordinator, it was called at that time, because James Hadley was going to leave. Like, he had just done the first year with you guys. So Luke said, we're looking for somebody for 3 months. And Ria Martins recommended you. And I'm almost falling off my chair. But of course, I'm not letting him know that. But I'm like, what? I'm floating. And I'm like, wow, okay, yes, that's interesting. Can you send me some more information? What are we looking at? What does that mean? What do you need from me? What am I supposed to be doing? So first, I just needed to know if you were interested. And I said, yeah, I am. And then he didn't send me information yet. I think he then set up an interview. I'm rushing home. I'm closing the studio. I'm like, Silke, guess what happened? But I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, and I got panic, because I just did all this big move back from New York, back from Paris, building this huge thing, got married, bought a house. Like, it was like I was done doing all the crazy stuff, I thought. And here comes the biggest opportunity of my life. And I thought at that time. And so I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then, Silke and I decided, it's just 3 months. My father also got sick at that time, and we knew he wasn't going to survive. So I was like, I'm not going to leave. This is crazy. And then my father said to me, if you don't do this, because my parents loved Cirque also, if you don't do this, I'm going to die a very unhappy man. And I was like, oh my God.
Chills.
Yes. Oh, bless him. So anyway, I hadn't even done the interview yet. Didn't even know if I got the job yet. So did the interview, was as professional as I could be, and as much myself as I could be. Pretty much thinking, because I think a lot of us do this, I'm never going to get this, forget it. Like, I'll probably never. I don't know how it was for you when you auditioned for Cirque, but that's how it was. And I thought, I have nothing to lose, because I have everything in my life. I have everything. So no pressure. And I think that helped. Not knowing what I was going into also really helped. And then a week later he called and he said, you got the job and we would like to invite, no, you got the job. We would like to invite you for 1 week. And I don't remember where we were, but it was somewhere in the south. And to just be with us for a week. And oh my God, Ev, it was just such a crazy experience because those tour buses, as you remember, they were the tour buses that Madonna and Michael Jackson and everybody was touring in. And it was such a huge production together with Live Nation. And I felt so small. And I remember looking at the performance the first time thinking, what is my job? And I was like saying to James, what is my job? And you're going to be the boss of all of this. Not just the artist and not just the choreography, but also the lights and the costume and everything. You are responsible of the integrity and show quality of this. And I just really swallowed. And this was a point where I thought, shit, I probably should run. Who am I to think that I can do this? But everyone was so cool. And you were one of the really important people for me and who really helped me through that and then helped me gain the confidence that I needed to do that. And I knew actually that I could do it when I started doing it. And yeah, Memento Bodyworks really helped me become that you can do everything a little bit person. And Cirque du Soleil's job was like that too. It's not just choreographing or re-choreographing or restaging, or it's also doing a little bit of accountancy and a little bit of costumes and a little bit of everything really. And it's amazing. And I think because we have a dancer's head, we can do this.
Yeah.
A dancer's brain.
You were meant to do this job.
Thank you.
Truly.
Bless
truly.
You,
and so wonderful. And then you were with Delirium, and then not only you did fantastic at that with that show, you also transitioned into another one.
Then I was invited. Then I left. Then my studio was still going. Okay, I didn't close Memento Dance Company yet because it was 3 months first with Cirque.
Yeah.
Then it became 6 months. Then my father still got to come, and then he passed away. And then it was really a hard time, but it was a beautiful time. Then it became a whole year, and then I believe Delirium closed. And then everybody got sent home, right? So there's all the redeployment stories, and I learn about that for the first time. There's always new things to learn. And I go back to my studio and super inspired by how things were going at Cirque. And I was trying to implement all the Cirque ways into my studio. And they were like, what? And no, but it was nice. And after about a year, I kept contact with Luc because he wanted me to create the show Bible. Remember? Show Bible? Oh.
I don't know.
Show Bible, I think it was called. I might be wrong, but I think it was called the Show Bible. And in the Show Bible, you actually put everything so that when a show goes to sleep and is being picked up again after 10 years,
yes.
everything is in there.
That. Oh, yes.
So,
I know what you're talking about.
Costumes, choreography, light plan, technical, like everything, carpentry, like everything is in there.
Yep.
And I was like responsible to find all that information and put it all. So I was working on that for a couple more months after Delirium, which kept me in contact with Luc. And I kept thinking, I got to go back to Cirque. This experience was so amazing. This is really, wow. I love my Memento Bodyworks, but that's what I need to be doing, artistic director. And so I gently asked him a bit shyly, hey, if there's any opportunity, will you think of me? And he did, because Luc is a very loyal man. And so I got interviewed then for a show, and they didn't tell me for what show. It was going to be a new creation, and all the artistic directors were on that call. And finally that became OVO, and OVO is still running today. Yeah. Yes. So OVO, I did that for about 6-7 years, and then I got to put Quidam to bed, let's say, as they say. So that was an honor because Quidam had been around for 20 years, and I was also co-responsible for helping those artists find redeployment. So when some people went up to become managers or completely different things, or they went to other shows as different artists. And all of a sudden, Krista Monson comes up because I think I connected you with Krista so you could come to Vegas. All of a sudden, I have this memory now. So I did that for, I don't know how long, 6 months or so, while OVO was changing from big top to arena show. So when Quidam was finished, I went back to OVO and did their first year into the arena. And then that was it.
What a story. And then you went back home and
Then I went back home, and I will not elaborate on the reasons as to why exactly, but it was one of the most difficult transitions I've ever had to make, because in those years with Cirque, and you've been on tour, and I think some of the listeners will have been on tour and will understand when I say you choose that life, you choose it. So you choose consciously to give up on something else. And I did that. I very consciously gave up my studio, my personal life, a lot of my family life too, because your tour people become your family. And it's not like your family is not your family anymore at home, but you don't see them that much anymore. That's just what it is. And that's hard, but it's also what it is. You choose for that. Yeah. And you make 5,000 people happy each day. And that's also very special and very fulfilling and great. So I came back to a sort of a void. My mother was still alive at that time, and I was very happy to go back to see her and to be here. But I was like, now what? It was the most daunting thing ever. So the first thing I did was nothing. And I just said, I'm going to travel, which might sound weird because I had been traveling all these 10 years, but I never really got to see the places that I really liked because I was always under pressure for work. So I took a self-created sabbatical and for, I think, 4 or 5, maybe 6 months. And I really it was wonderful. I went back to Dance Space, which actually doesn't exist anymore, but it's now a different studio. But my teachers were still there, and I went dancing, which was hard because my body hadn't been dancing anymore. But it was great to do that. And I just visited friends all over the world, because when you work with Cirque, you make friends all over the world, which is cool. So I did that to then finally come back and to then still not really know what I was going to do. But I found an apartment. And I decided, let me just settle down for a bit. There is a beautiful theme park in this country called the Efteling. And it's not Walt Disney, but you could perhaps compare it to that. But it's very authentic to the culture of here. So they don't have Mickey Mouse, but they have their own creatures, let's say, or characters, I should say. And they also had a theater, and they were going to build a theater show with Cirque elements. And so they asked me if I could help them. So I co-created that show I think I did that project for about 8 months, which got me off the streets. I'm back into the theater again, which was nice, but I wasn't fulfilled really, because when you come out of Cirque, it's like you have been at the top and everything else is great, but it's not what you experienced. And I was still very hungry for that, I noticed. And so I thought, okay, what am I going to do? And then the pandemic hit, and I was writing a script because I had been working on this script and it's still here on the shelf. It's still evolving, and I take it and I work on it, then I put it away, and it travels with me throughout my travel. So maybe one day it'll come out. That's a great story, but that's another story. Pandemic hit, and I sat in my apartment, and then I bought myself a reformer, which is a Pilates piece of equipment. Yeah. And it was one of the other dreams I had always had, was to have my own reformer in my own house, so I could just do my own workouts. Yeah. And so I did that while we were all in lockdown, and I started training my body, and my body started getting back in shape. And I was like, oh my God, I was crying, Ev, on that reformer. All the stretches I did were bringing me to tears. It was like, coming back into my body. Such an intense experience. I had no idea. I was also learning about a certain body-oriented therapy at that time, because I thought I might as well teach myself some new skills while we're in pandemic mode. And I also needed it for my own crossover. I needed some support. And I love that work. And I thought, wow, this is the body work I always was looking for, that can really support you as a dancer and support you as a Pilates practitioner, but also support you as a manager. And I thought, wow, I want to get certified in that. All of a sudden I got inspired. So I went back to school for 4.5 years. And I was like, why am I crying? And then this body-oriented therapy was showing me why I was crying. And I was doing all this healing and researching while I was doing Pilates. And then all these Memento Bodyworks old students started to call me, because all the sports schools and gyms were closed. Yeah. And they were like, are you teaching? And I was like, not really, but I do have a reformer in my living room. And so all of a sudden I had a private practice at home, and it was booked out. And I was like, I might as well say yes, because I have no job. So the pandemic helped me shape, recast, re-rise, whatever. And it was a bit bittersweet, Ev, because I didn't want to say goodbye to the theater.
Yeah.
But the only thing that helped me was knowing that all the theaters were closed. As difficult as that was for all my beautiful friends, it soothed me knowing that I didn't have to feel the pressure of trying to get back into the theater because they were closed anyway. It's almost like I needed that permission to be able to learn something else. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. And you know what I love about you is that you are really open to following the sensations, your experiences, and they lead you to the next thing. And you're really open to receiving it,
Thank you.
which it's not a given when in our
No.
day to day and we do this and something happens, but you're like, okay, I'll leave it right here.
Yeah.
And because I'm going there, you're so open. And look at you, you've done such an your path is.
Yeah, thank you, Ev, because I need to be reminded, because the way I have shared it now may sound beautiful and inspiring, but believe me, it was hard. I was crawling over the ground in grief. I think I was mourning the departure of my life in the theater. That was not the plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Things were then thrown at me almost, and my mother fell sick, and I was here to be able to take care of her, and I wasn't able to do that with my dad. So I was so grateful that I was now able to do that for one of my parents. But you're right, a lot of sometimes things, and then I do have the gift of being open and going with what is possible and what is given, even though at that time I couldn't see it that way. But when I look back, you're right. And I'm very proud because now I have reopened Memento Bodyworks, but it's not in a big physical space. I have a private practice at home where I teach Pilates, and I also teach teachers to become teachers or to become like deep in their teaching. And I do the body work, and I teach on location when people ask me. Sometimes I dream of opening a big space again, but it's not really needed because I have all the work I need. And I do my reset and inspiration weeks, which I think you read about, which is like a retreat once a year in Ireland. And we're hoping to be able to do that in more different places because, yeah, to soothe ourselves.
It's so wonderful.
Aww.
Marjon, what would you recommend to artists, performers, creatives that are going through a career change, or they know that what I'm doing, my body's hurting, similar to you, okay? Or for whatever reason, they are looking into or thinking about what could be next. What advice would you give them?
Can it be several different pieces? I don't know if I have one formula because I think because the people you're referring to, the kind of human beings that they are, I believe that they are not able to do just one thing. That's why you do different shows in your career and you do different choreographies and you learn all this stuff because that's what makes you whole. So I would suggest to not be worried that you need to find one thing right away. I think you should take a palette, put some dots and colors on there and try a couple of different things and make sure that you can feed yourself and that you can put a roof above your head with maybe not the stuff that you love the most, but at least it keeps you safe so you can figure out what it is that you really need to do next. So that's really important because before you know it, you're going to be stuck in that thing that you don't really love, but that pays your bills. So my mentor from Ireland said, it's like you're a tripod. You have 3 legs, and all these 3 legs are things that you do. One is going to pay your bills, the other one's paying your rent, and the other one's kind of fun. But on top of that is your masterpiece. So keep your masterpiece in mind, and you might not know it right away what that is. I've seen some of your work, some of your interviews or podcasts, and I love that there's such a variety of different skills that are coming out of people like software engineer or real estate person or artistic director or what it is that you do. What do you call that?
I am an implementation manager.
Wow. Oh, and I saw HR manager somewhere as well.
Oh, yeah.
Implementation manager. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Don't give up hope and keep dreaming.
Yeah.
And see, even if I don't dance and I'm not in the theater, like sometimes I get down and I think, Jesus, I was doing all these years not to be in the theater anymore. And then I had people that I love and that know me and that I believe in they say, but you are creating. This is a creation, what you're doing. And it's very creative, and you're working with artists and you're inspiring them and you're also caring for them. And creation can be in very many different colors or
Oh,
something like that.
I
I
love
should
that.
really,
I
yeah.
see the palette. I see it. The palette of colors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marion, thank you. Is there anything else you
Ev,
want to add and share?
I do still hope I will have that script come to the stage or in a book or whatever. That is only to say I will keep dreaming, I think, until the day that I depart. And I love that you're doing this, Ev. Thank you for having me. And I really hope that you will inspire many people to keep going and not give up and keep their creative juices going, because that makes them fun and special. And everybody will want to work with them because they know so many different things and they're so adaptable.
Yes.
You
You
know?
are a proof of that. You are wonderful. Thank you so
darling.
much. Your story,
You're so
I'm
welcome.
in
Yay.
awe. Thank you so
Come
much.
to Ireland. Come to Ireland.
Yes.
Celebrate.
Thank you so
Yay.
much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ev. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for listening to Recast and Rise. If today's story made a difference, share it with a fellow artist and creative friend. Subscribe to this podcast and write a review so more people can access the tools shared on this platform. You can also follow me on my socials for more tips and tricks to navigate your career change. Until next time, I will see you in the next episode.